Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 101. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us for this Tuesday show. Dave, they're apparently making a movie starring Kevin James about Sean Payton's time away from the Saints in Bountygate, coaching his kids' team. And I just want to know why. Why are they doing this? What a terrible idea.
I looked at it, I thought, I didn't know if this was some sort of April Fool's joke that was late or what. Do we need that as entertainment already? Have we reached, have we gone that far for, with lack of certain entertainment that we need that? And by the way, I would look at the two and wouldn't think Kevin James would be Sean Payton's doppelganger. You know, I could probably come up with, if I thought hard enough, probably two or three other people, I think. But, and that's supposed to come on Netflix when?
I have no idea. I refuse to watch it, so I am not paying attention to release dates. But it's just the heartwarming story of the head coach whose team got caught trying to, unnecessarily injure its opponents. Wow, what a heartwarming story we can all relate to. But I was going to ask, but I already know the answer to this. If Mike Tomlin had a situation like this, who would play him?
Omar Epps, easily. Yeah. What's next? Recreating the sideline fiasco against the Ravens on Thanksgiving night several many moons ago. I'm not going to set the DVR for this one, I don't think.
Yeah, me neither. All right, Dave. Hopefully you guys are setting the DVR for this podcast today, as we have lots to talk about, including two signings the Steelers have made since our last show on Friday. One came yesterday, one came over the weekend. We'll start with the latter, and we kind of teased it, and the move became official, I believe, on Saturday, I think it was, with the signing of defensive lineman TJ Carter. And so, Dave, I know we talked about him briefly on Friday's show. What more do you want to talk about TJ Carter?
Yeah, I haven't dug too deep into him, to be honest with you. I don't know if you have, just kind of surface area kind of stuff with him. This is obviously a defensive end, 3-4-5 tech, if you will. He just recently worked out. Boy, it's a good year to go back to your school's pro day and maybe try to impress some people there. And I guess this makes the fourth or fifth player overall that has done this, that has impressed the Steelers enough to get signed to the offseason roster. At the Kentucky Pro Day, I believe he was listed at the most recent one here, 6'4", 289 pounds, 26 reps on the bench. I think you have 40 time was under 5 seconds, and the Steelers had at least one personnel member attend his workout, and that was special teams coordinator Danny Smith. You'd have to think maybe there was someone else there, maybe as well too, to put in the good word for him. But I think heading into this draft, and we talked about it on the live stream yesterday. Man, doing mock drafts right now, and it looks like this team has so many needs, and even though they have 8 picks, it's so hard to address everything that you'd like this team to be able to address, that defensive linemen, defensive ends specifically, might be one of those positions that they ultimately have to say, well, we just didn't have enough picks to go around here. We wouldn't expect that position to get addressed early anyway, so you're looking more at the back end of the draft. And for them to go about and really the last couple of picks, the second one we'll talk about here in a minute as well too, for them to be kind of defensive tackle, defensive end types, if you will, that might speak a little volume there. So obviously Carter is going to be a back end of the roster guy here, and getting signed this late in the offseason, being a former undrafted free agent, really not having any playing time, says a lot, but stranger things have happened. We don't like to just call these guys camp bodies and, oh, wow, this guy's just going to be gone in a couple weeks anyway. But I think it more than anything speaks volumes to the team trying to address the depth any way that they can on the defensive line there with guys that kind of fit the profile for what they look for. And then now we'll see how this plays out. Have you gotten a chance to look at any of his film from a couple years ago?
No, I haven't. I just kind of know the background and his story, and he was a guy that really just simply never had an opportunity last year. He was undrafted, signed with the Cardinals after the draft, but spent the first week of training camp with the team, but they weren't practicing. And then the Cardinals, like so many other teams, including Pittsburgh, cut their rosters from 90 to 80, so they wouldn't have to do split squad stuff per NFL rules at the time. And Carter was part of those cuts to get to 80, so he basically never actually practiced with the team, and then he was out of the league last season, went back to his pro day this year. So many players have done because he didn't have one in 2020 and get signed. So he's basically almost literally a rookie, even if he does technically kind of have a year into the NFL.
Are they going to do they're going to carry 90, right? This off season?
Like you're saying that they're not going to go back to 80 like they did last year? I believe, but I don't know if that's even been determined yet, so I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you.
Because right now, I mean, some of these guys might be, if they go back to 80 again, I mean, I think the roster right now officially sits at, 73 under contract right now, and that number, we'll talk about in a minute, might potentially grow by one here in the next 24 hours. And if 80 is the number and you have 8 draft picks and you're probably going to sign 10 at least 8 to 10 undrafted free agents again, then some of these guys are going to be out the door fairly quick. So my hope is that they won't, that they'll carry 90 again this offseason. I don't think there's been any official word that they're going to do 80 again. And if that's the case, it would make sense of where the roster numbers are right now, and it makes sense kind of some of these late signings on top of it.
Yeah, I hope they keep it at 90 for those younger guys, for the undrafted guy or the rookie to come in and try to, the TJ Carters of the world. I thought last year it was dumb to say, 90 is too many. 80 is fine. We can have 80 guys together, but 90 is just, whoa, we got to slow things down, just kind of the weird quirks of last year. So hopefully they keep it at 90, but I don't know if that's been made official yet.
Right. And I mean, heck, there might not even be the way the players unions kind of pushing back right now. And maybe we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast as well, too. Cameron Hayward and who's obviously the team NFLPA rep and JC Treader, really, really vocal these last couple of weeks about how thinking that there doesn't need to be an in-person OTA program, that most everything should be done virtually this offseason. That is just another layer of something we'll have to watch kind of back into COVID related that could impact this offseason again.
All right, Dave, the Steelers signed another defensive lineman yesterday, somebody with some NFL experience. That man is Abdullah Anderson, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears. In 2019, he played in 6 games with the Bears, recorded 1 sack, and again, profiling as potential nose tackle, 3-tech, someone that can probably play up and down the line. So somebody with a little bit of NFL experience added to the roster.
Yeah, go to your basement, pull out your Bucknell tape. I actually did that, but not in my basement, on the YouTube machine a little bit, and threw some highlights. And a guy that can play up and down the line, a guy that can I think specifically if you needed him to could play over the nose there. Some of his Bucknell tape I think shows some of that quickness up over the nose and in the 1 and 2 gaps there. Kind of quick, good with the hips, I thought overall. Really hasn't done a lot at the NFL level. Broke in with the Chicago Bears as an undrafted free agent out of Bucknell. Spent his, I think, first 2 seasons on the Bears practice squad. Got a cup of coffee with the Bears, I think, later in the 2000 and what that would have been 19 season, and then I think ended up with the Vikings. Spent some time on the Vikings practice squad last season, and then was up for maybe I think it was a game or 2 or something along those lines there. 113, I think, total defensive snaps in the NFL, 1 sack. A couple of nice, I think, run defenses as well, too. I think you can find a little bit of tape on that as well. But once again, this is a measurable guy, I think, that fits what the Steelers look for. And, his limited amount of tape out there isn't awful. I think that would be the best way to describe him at that point. Don't want to get too far deep into selling or not selling these guys. But once again, I think it kind of circles back what we said at the top there, right? The team could use some other depth at the defensive line position, up and down, some guys that could be versatile. This guy kind of reminds me of a Chris Wormley-ish like kind of player in the limited amount of tape that I've watched on him so far. So, I don't know what this means for the draft, Alex, but I think there's a better than average chance at this point that maybe defensive line won't be addressed during this draft now.
Yeah, I think those odds are pretty low. Maybe on day 3, somebody where just a grade and the value is so high, you feel like you have to take him if somebody slips. But, I mean, you re-sign Alu, you re-sign Chris Wormley, you're adding these couple guys, Anderson in particular, since he does have NFL experience. You already have, Carlos Davis, Isaiah Buggs, Henry Mondeau. It would be a surprise to see a defensive lineman get picked maybe with a 7th-round selection, one of those 2 picks to round things out. But I think defensive line's in a better place than a lot of other positions right now, both starters and depth.
You remember us going back to, I think it's around the Senior Bowl time or whatnot, and us saying, man, it's just not, where are the 3, 4, 5 techs at?
Right.
The body types that the Steelers look for. Where is that kind of group of players in this class? And really, there's not many of them at all, right? I mean, you got the kid out of Florida State that I think would fit.
Marvin Wilson.
Yeah, Marvin Wilson. And then I think you had the small. Didn't they send defensive line coach over to a small school here just recently?
Yeah, Milton Williams at Louisiana Tech.
That's the other one. I think outside of those couple of guys, I mean, there's not many of them that really fit what the Steelers look for. Maybe more so as far as true nose defensive tackles go, but as far as guys that could swing out to the outside there and get to that 3 or the 4 eye or even a 5, those are kind of hard to find, I think.
Yeah, trying to find that guy, the Hayward, Tuitt, molded, or 6'4" to 6'5" with 33 to 34-inch arms, 300 pounds. Just not a lot of those guys in college football, in at least this draft class. And Wilson and Williams are guys that are probably going to be day 2 picks. So if you wanted to get one of those guys, you would probably have to use your 2nd or 3rd round pick on the position. You really can't justify that right now with the other needs on this roster.
Let's see. I think Quentin Bohanna, I think, 6'4", 327. That's a little heavy there. He'd probably have to slim it down a little bit there. Who else there? Naquan Jones out of Michigan State, a little undersized, I think, at 6'3" and 3/8 there, but has the weight there. I think his build's more along the lines of kind of maybe Isaiah Buggs, isn't it? And then you had a couple. I think you had the another kind of a little bit heavier side kid, Tedderell Slayton out of Florida, 6'4", 330 pounds. Marquise Spencer out of Mississippi State, East-West Shrine Game invitee at 6'3" and 5/8", 301. But most.
What about Loudermilk from Wisconsin? Would probably be one of your better fits.
Yeah, and he wasn't even a combine invite, I don't think, was he?
I don't know. I'm assuming he's not showing up on your list, so
yeah.
Probably not. But he weighed in at Wisconsin at, let's see here, 6'6", 274. So he's actually a little bit leaner than I thought he was, with shorter arms. So, yeah, and also kind of weird body type as well.
And so within all this, I think it goes back to what we said, just not an ideal class when it comes to what the Steelers kind of look for that position. Not saying that they couldn't get one of these guys late, and obviously undrafted free agents or whatnot might be one of those mixed in there overall. But for what these two recent signings are. It fits what they look for, and then we'll see if they can compete and maybe at least add to the practice squad there.
Yep, There you go. All right, Dave, sticking with some NFL news, and really these two topics are more smoke than fire, at least as we sit here today. James Conner visiting with the Arizona Cardinals on Monday, his first known visit so far. I think Arizona would make a lot of sense for him in terms of opportunity. They lost Kenyon Drake to the Raiders. Really isn't a whole lot on that depth chart right now. There's Chase Edmonds, and that's really about it. And then also James Saxon is the running back coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and that is the Steelers' former running backs coach who was Conner's first positional coach in the NFL. So he could reunite with James Saxon, who was very popular and will like with those players. So no signing official there yet, but that is the report. James Conner visited with Arizona yesterday.
Maybe even the bigger news that came out about James Conner yesterday was the fact that underwent off-season surgery to repair a very moderate turf toe type. Say this real quick. Moderate turf toe type injury, and the injury incurred while riding a recreational vehicle. I mean, you want to talk about bad luck, James Conner. I mean, a turf toe-like injury while riding a recreational vehicle? We might have to get Dr. Mel on the horn for this.
Well, she seemed baffled by it. I saw her tweet that she didn't understand how that injury could occur.
Yeah, I don't know if we should go deeper into that or not, but hopefully he's okay. And to hear the report by Ian Rappaport, should have no issues going forward. But that would obviously explain maybe the slow start to the unrestricted free agent season for James Conner, right?
Yeah, I'm sure at least one part of it. That's also just the most copy-paste, agent-driven report I've ever seen in my entire life. Moderate turf toe injury, recreational vehicle will be good by June. Just very much agent-driven there. But I'm sure that's one of the several reasons why his market hasn't been hot, on top of all the other injuries he suffered throughout his career. But we'll see if Arizona is a landing spot for him. I think that would be a really good home for him.
He going to get at least $3 million in 2021?
I really don't know. I mean, maybe with some sort of incentives, he could boost up there. I think any deal he would take would be based on incentives, playtime, availability, things like that. But it's not going to be a lot of money.
If all you could get right now, if you're him, if all you have is one of those veteran benefit minimum with $137,500 signing bonus out there as part of the deal, do you sign it right now or do you wait?
Man, I think if you're in that situation for any player, you just wait till after the draft and you just see what the rosters look like. Because if Arizona could take a running back, they could theoretically still take Najee Harris or Etienne at 16. So I think if you're in that situation, you sit there and say, let's wait till post draft and see exactly what these rosters look like. Because I don't want to commit to a place and they draft a running back, day one of the draft, and now my circumstances have changed.
And especially if you're sitting there on a minimum contract.
Right. It's not like you're going to get anything worse than that. So if Conner's in that situation, and I don't know if he is, but if he is, then I would just wait till after the draft. It's 2 weeks away.
I would too. My view on him at this point is if he can't even hit the 2 million mark right now, why sign?
Mm-hmm.
Why not wait? We know he's a workout warrior anyway. He's going to keep himself in shape as best as he can. Obviously, probably going to have a little bit of extra conditioning, as part of this, as part of this surgery and all like that. But I would wait if I was him. If I can't get over 2 million right now at this point, I wait on into the summer.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Other news, and this is news in air quotes because sometimes we think we can overinterpret some of these things, and we never really know exactly what these comments are inferring. But Avery Williamson, Steelers inside linebacker, still a free agent right now, had a post on Instagram yesterday showing himself in a Steelers uniform, saying, I believe, quote, more to come. Don't know if that means he could potentially be returning to Pittsburgh. If that's just a generic athlete type social media post, but some people were kind of looking at that, and so wanted to at least mention the possibility of Williamson, maybe coming back to Pittsburgh.
Alex, we have some breaking news here.
Do we?
Yeah, Avery Williamson either will or will not sign with the Steelers here.
See, this is why we're the go-to place for Steelers information.
Look, it makes sense. I mean, it adds up, but it's not enough to write up just yet. I mean, we've got something ready to go in case it does happen. It would make sense for that to happen at this point, right?
If it's for the minimum, then sure. You at least Vince Williams, UG3's had the back issues. If he wants to come back to be depth, which is what the Steelers traded for him for last year, obviously ended up starting once Blaine hurt his knee. But if he's depth on the minimum, then that's fine with me.
He's another one, though. You wonder why. And look, he didn't set the world on fire, obviously, when after the Steelers traded for him. But with the pedigree and all like that, and with him, his knowledge and supposedly being able to call defenses and all like that, makes you kind of wonder why he's still unsigned at this point, unless all he can get is maybe a minimum contract. But even though I wouldn't, I'm not advocating a team pay him $3 or $4 million a year. I'm a bit surprised that he can't get maybe a couple million.
Yeah, but I mean, how many teams are trying to sign him to start? And the teams that aren't signing him to start, is he going to be a great special teamer for you? Probably not.
No.
I mean, he's not a great athlete, so it's just kind of like, where does he fit? I mean, he's been a tackle machine his whole career, even in Pittsburgh last year, but it's just, where do you really play him unless you really think he's going to be a slam dunk starter, which he really isn't at this point in his career.
And knowing Kevin Colbert, this is either, if indeed they are re-signing him, then this is either a 1-year benefit deal or it's a 2-year. We're going to keep your cap hit under, as close to around $1 million as we possibly can here. So,
right.
The way he certainly framed that Instagram post makes it appear as though that this is done or about to be done, a return to Pittsburgh. But, of course, we've seen Instagram posts not be what we thought they were in the past.
All right, Cam Sutton is still a Steeler. For those who thought a couple months ago he was out the door. So we'll see.
It's the right move. It's the right move if it is the minimum or thereabout. I mean, because it gives you a layer of protection there, and then also it wouldn't guarantee him a roster spot. I wouldn't think.
No, I wouldn't think so either.
I don't think it changes your draft situation either.
No, I would hope not. Not at all. I should also mention that Carl Joseph, who visited the Steelers, has signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. So going back to where he started with the Raiders, we do not know terms of that deal yet, I believe, but more than what Pittsburgh was offering.
Obviously, yeah, and that deal probably wasn't hard to beat. I haven't checked this morning if those numbers had come in on that.
If you want to check now, and I can kind of vamp here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on that. Nothing new yet.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure he didn't get paid a lot in Vegas, but more than what, again, the Steelers were offering, which is probably the minimum.
Right.
All right, Dave, let's kick off into some draft talk here. And before we get into some of the mock drafts that you have done and Mel Kiper's done and some of the studies that I've conducted the last couple of days, you've gold star for you, Dave Bryan, for putting together a great pro day tracker and basically putting it in the old combine format. You can search for the information on Steelers Depot by just searching pro day, and you can find the all the pro day information along with RAS scores and links to scouting reports and links to player bios, all in one place on Steelers Depot. We got to find a way to get that more front and center and keep that pinned to the post somewhere at the top of the page or something, Dave. But it's really, really valuable information in just a crazy year of numbers all over the place. So kind of a one-stop shop is really important, and I encourage all Steelers fans to check that out on Steelers Depot.
How about this? By the end of the day, I will, if you go to SteelersDepot.com, you go up to the top navigational bar, you hover over NFL Draft Info, I will have a link directly to that page up top in the navigational bar by the end of the day there. And look, I think this is needed, especially for putting these mock drafts together and all like that. Normally we have this kind of stuff put together after the combine every year. We had to wait for all the pro days to get finished this year. And the thing, I wanted to point out every name on this spreadsheet here. The names are linked to the college profile, so you can go directly to the bio page of each player on their college site. Additionally, if we have done a profile on the player, that'll be in the last column, linked in the scout column, where you can click on that and read the profile that we have up on Steelers Depot on the player if it's done, and then also the RAS scores, which I think are kind of the new spark kind of ratings, if you will. What do they call that? Relative athletic scores. I think is what they officially term that. Those have been hot as well on top of it. I've added a column with whether or not the player was all-star game invitee. That should help too when putting together some mock drafts. So really kind of wanted to make this a all-in, because look, I needed it too. I think we all needed it just for the site, because it makes it easy to kind of navigate hesitate to get info on these players that we write up constantly, whether it be mock drafts or whatever, all in one place. So we invite everybody to stop by SteelersDepot.com and check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be at the top of the page under NFL Draft Info next to the player profiles for this year, which we just surpassed 200 of those yesterday. So great job by the Steelers Depot team. So we'll be well over 200 for draft day. And I think we got a decent chance to hopefully at least have a profile on basically every player the Steelers draft this April.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Yep. So still speeding ahead on those player profiles. All right, Dave. Let's get to the draft here specifically, and let's start with your mock draft. You had your first mock draft come out yesterday. What's with the I like this one. All right, let's dive into it. We'll go round by round. I'll kind of throw the pick at you, and you kind of explain your rationale for the selection here at number 24 overall in your first mock draft. You have the Steelers taking running back Najee Harris out of Alabama.
Yeah, just going chalk here, right? You know, it's not hard to envision the Steelers going a running back at 24 overall. Specifically at this point, I think it could potentially be either Najee Harris or Travis Etienne out of Clemson. That's the way I'm kind of leaning right now, especially if they do go running back there. The fast, I don't think they could have any more fingerprints over Najee Harris, through the pre-draft process at this point. Once again, this is what I think the Steelers will do, not necessarily what I would do. You know how I feel about running backs in the first round, but it certainly does add up with the way things have been pointing so far this offseason. And in my opinion, if you don't get either Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, you're really and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but based on your series that you fired back up again there are not many running backs I don't see in the early rounds that are going to match what the Steelers would look for. So I think these are like 2 of the 3 or 4 possibly to get. So kind of going chalk here, no-brainer, Captain Obvious, Najee Harris at 24 overall.
Right, but this one makes a lot of sense, pretty commonly mocked to Pittsburgh. Was there anyone else that you really considered strongly or otherwise at 24? You mentioned Etienne. Anybody else where you felt like maybe I can – be a little off the beaten path and choose another name here at 24?
Not really. And with this for being my first one, I kind of want to try to go kind of, as chalk as possible. I mean, when I pulled out the old pen and paper, Najee was already going to be, number one there. Mm-hmm. So not that I don't think that the team could go a different direction. We obviously talked about your last one with JOK out of Notre Dame. If they didn't, and look, we went over the 5 guys, I think 5 or 6 guys that really best maybe fit at this point based on history and pro days and all like that could potentially be the guy. Najee is obviously in that group. I think Etienne's in that group. Asante Samuel Jr. I think's in that group. Who was the other one? JOK, right? Was in that group. I mean, there's not many in there. So if I would have went another direction, it would have been, outside of Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, it would probably been one of the other guys on that short list that we just built on the recent podcast.
Yeah, just a quick sidebar. I mentioned I kind of made the case where I think JOK checks a lot of boxes. I found another box that he checks over the weekend. They said not only is Owusu Cormo from Virginia, he's from Hampton, Virginia, which is 757, literally like 10 minutes away from Newport News, Tomlin's old stomping ground. So, man, I'm just saying this guy checks every single box possible, and Tomlin, he's admitted he loves those 757 guys.
And then also he kind of, I don't know if it was just a Freudian slip, but at the Notre Dame game, at the Notre Dame Pro Day, maybe we're going to come away. Said something to the to the effect of going to come away maybe another Notre Dame player this year or whatnot. I think we're reading way too much into it. But I mean, if it happens, then we're going to circle back to it, and it'll be like that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the television, there it is, that kind of thing there. But it would make sense, Alex. I mean, I think you've connected enough dots there, and once again, I think kind of circling back to the 5 or 6 names, the short list that we kind of whittled down just recently, just based only off of history, based only off of pro days. There's nothing that leads me to believe that would be a name off of that list. Could it be? I mean, people will obviously say, see, you guys are wrong. You didn't have Zaven Collins on there. You didn't have, you could build the list out 13 more players really if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. But just going off of history and the things that we normally do, that short list is about 5 or 6 names, I would think.
Yep, I think so. All right, in the second round, number 55 overall is a guy I know you've talked about as you personally see as more of a third-round guy, but you mock here in the second round with Pat Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State. Steelers have obviously shown a lot of interest in him, so I think this is another pretty solid dot-connecting selection.
Yeah, this is just chalk again, right? I mean, they certainly seem to like Freiermuth. I like him too. He's not a player I would put in my top 50 or – really, I mean, I have trouble trying to put him in really the top 75 in this draft, to be honest with you. I've watched all the film at this point here. Greg Cosell labels him, Heath Miller-like. I think that's a little strong, to be quite honest with you. I know people not going to like to hear it, but he's more Jesse James than he is Heath Miller. Okay.
Well, let's talk about some of the positives you like with Freiermuth in 55.
What do you like about his game? I like the size. I like the ability to block. Is there? I think that can be improved upon. I think he does a good job of using his body to shield off defenders. There's just not a lot down the field kind of stuff to kind of look at there. I think overall, I mean, he's a very well-rounded player, and I guess maybe that's maybe more the point that a guy like Cosell was trying to make when it comes to him. Look, there's not many at all, really, every year in the NFL draft these days. There's not many all-around tight ends, guys that you can attach to the line, use as a blocking, guys that you can detach from the line. He's in that mold, and because of that, this is going to be a tight end that the Steelers like, and we saw the reaction at the pro day with the tight end coach, and man, once again, the fingerprints are just all over this one, and it's tough to ignore, and it's tough to kind of tuck him back a round or two later. So I think the Steelers like him. They probably wouldn't be afraid to take him in the second round.
Yeah, I remember Freiermuth had said that he had multiple conversations and interactions with Alfredo Roberts prior to that pro day. Had a really good rapport, it sounded like, so a lot of interest there. How would you classify the need of tight end versus, center, offensive tackle, edge, running back? Where would you kind of rank, loosely at least, the need for tight end?
I mean, just go back to what you've been screaming for the last couple of years, right? I mean, they tried to address it with Gentry, a couple years ago. That obviously doesn't look like it. It's going to play out here. You have Eric Ebron, who really is, they extended him, but with avoidable years, you'd have to really think that this is going to be his final year. I mean, who do you have? Unless they turn around in the next week or two and re-sign Jesse James, which I think is the move that should be made. To be quite honest with you, it would certainly decrease the immediate kind of need going into this, but I think regardless, they need to address this position in this draft. And okay, if you don't want to do it with a second or third pick in this draft, that's fine, because I think there's a couple of other tight ends that can be had, maybe with that second, fourth round pick, maybe sixth round, but there are some guys, and look, if you don't get one that's not necessarily a good route runner, pass catcher, I'm fine with that. Give me one that can block, I think those can maybe be had a little bit later in this draft here. So, I mean, that's a long way to answer your question, but you look at it, you probably say, okay, they could probably get by with what they got on their roster, but getting by is probably the part of the problem right now, you know?
And all it takes is one injury to Ebron, and now you got a major problem.
And look, I'm a Raider fan, a Kevin Raider fan, but is he?
Yeah, I thought you turned on me for a second.
No,
I guess you're Vegas. I'm going to go Vegas Raiders on me.
No, he's. I mean, is it good enough though? I mean, this is a guy that just barely had a cup of coffee with the team late last year, and right at this point right now, other than Joe Haig, probably the best blocking tight end on the roster, right? At this point here, so once again, Freiermuth, a little bit rich for my blood at 55 overall, but I could definitely see the Steelers taking him there. I think they like him that much.
Yeah, I think so too. In round number 3 at pick 87 overall, you're going with their first defensive pick here with inside linebacker Baron Browning from Ohio State. What made you go with Browning here, Dave?
Hey, I really wanted to go. If it was up to me, I probably would have gone offense through the first 5 or 6 picks here. But something tells me that the Steelers won't go that route. When's the last time that they've started off a draft with either 3 straight offensive or defensive players,
I think 3's happened before. I don't think 4 has ever happened before for either side of the football. I'll have to double check that.
Right. So you would think they're going to mix it up somewhere. Look, Baron Browning, I think, inside linebacker out of Ohio State. I think people are a little bit rich on him right now. I mean, he's got the measurables there. He had a great pro day there. But I think when you go dive deeper into the tape and the usage and the production there's reason to think that this is more of a late second round to later third round kind of selection there. But, however, he checks a lot of boxes for the Steelers. I'm talking a lot of boxes there for him. And I think character, I think everything all the way around when it comes to him, I think the Steelers would like about him. So I could definitely see him as a potential third-round selection.
Yeah, the question is, the debate with Browning is you got a really good athlete with somebody who didn't have a lot of production. You're kind of wrestling with why is this guy who was super athletic not putting up those kind of numbers? And so will teams, look at the latter of that and say the numbers weren't there, so he's going to fall a little bit, or will someone fall in love with that athleticism and say this guy I think we can really work with because he's just such a uncommon athlete for the position?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of projection in there. I mean, as usual with most of these guys, right? But once again, I think we've reached a stage, I think, where some of these guys are getting a little bit too much hype. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Look, I mean, all it takes is one team, right? I mean, one team drafted Artie Burns in the first round, and everybody say, well, see, I told you he was a first-round prospect, and then you have everybody else saying, why are they reaching? Mm-hmm. So where's the fine line here? I have to go by where some of what I see on tape, and then some of the sources that I kind of trust as far as where guys may or may not go. That's the age-old thing about putting these things out. People want to look at, there's no way that guy's going to be there, instead of just discussing the player and the fit with the team. All right, and I think that's the main discussion here. Does Baron Browning fit with the Steelers?
Yeah, and I think he does. And I think so does your 4th-round pick here, Quinn Miners, the center guard out of Wisconsin Whitewater. Obviously, if the Steelers drafted him, he'd be much more apt to play center than he would guard. So Miners the pick there, which I think would be that nasty center the Steelers are certainly looking for.
Yeah, yada, yada. You have him at 128th overall. He won't be on the board. Okay, maybe not. All right, maybe you have to take him in say, the 3rd round here. The thing with him, look, if there's one kid that's one of my favorites in this draft class, and really so far, I haven't really had that one, that one guy, but I mean, how can you not like him? You go back to the Senior Bowl stuff with him, and him making breakfast for everybody with the pancakes in some of those practices there. Here's the thing that I caution with Miners here. A lot of it has to do with the measurables. I mean, the tape, although it's small school tape, is fantastic. right? At least on the 3 games that I've seen, we saw him go to the Senior Bowl and more than hold his own there. But let's go a little bit deeper here. He has less than 30 college starts at Wisconsin Whitewater, which I didn't even really, I'm not even sure I knew was a college until the Senior Bowl rolled around here. Less than 30 starts. I believe all those 28 or 29 starts came at left guard, all right, with him. I think, personally, I think he's going to have to move inside to center at the next level. Maybe not, but and then, the measurables off chart. But once again, you've got here you got a kid at, I think, 6'0", which is under 6'3". The list is small when it becomes to small school kids. Well, the list is small, period, when it comes to interior offensive linemen under 6'3", drafted in the first couple of rounds. All right, it does happen. All right, but normally those are Power 5 type kids on top of it there. So he's already got that kind of working against him. He did not play in 2020. That's a little bit of another knock on him. Sure. And then you got the whole small school aspect of it as well too. Fantastic player. Just here's the thing: if you're an NFL team and you love him, and you probably like him as a left guard right out of the chute, right? If you love him.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously probably more comfortable at left guard, but I think he could play center too. I think you could play him either spot.
I think if an NFL team likes him that much, willing to take him, he's not going in the first round, right? Or is he?
No, he's not going. No, he's not going in the first round.
We can at least go. I am always against not that round guy. But we can really unequivocally agree that he's not going in the first round, right?
Yes.
Anytime after that, I think it's probably maybe open for discussion there. The thing is if you're an NFL GM and you draft this guy in the second round, which many people think there's a chance of happening, don't miss. You know what I'm saying?
Well, just because he's a risk or a projection?
Yeah, I think he's more. I think he's more of a projection guy right now for all the reasons that I said. I think he's got a lot of things working against him and especially with only having 28, 29 games at a small school. Once again, the tape's great for him, as far as small school. But what we saw at the Senior Bowl enough?
Yeah, I think probably to an extent he is getting overrated, and I think those are really valuable reasons of why he's going to fall a little bit. And generally speaking, the interior linemen and center especially do tend to slip a little bit more than, say, offensive tackles do. So I think those are all valid points. Still, though, I see his floor as kind of end of day 2, late round 3, and I'm just curious because I know you wanted to put in Spencer Brown, the tackle from Northern Iowa, in the 4th round, but you said he was off your board, so it sounds like you think Brown is a day 2 type of guy. What made Brown, who's in a similar boat, small school, didn't play this past year, had a good Senior Bowl week, etc. What made him kind of a day 2 guy, but Miner's a day 3 guy?
I just think when you look overall at I think a closer inspection at some of these tackles, maybe being potentially better fits as left guards. I think there's a couple of them that maybe you could.
You think? Are you saying that Brown's going to move to guard? Or
No. I think there's other tackles that in this class that maybe I think you could make arguments that maybe these guys are better to kick inside. Dylan Redden's from North Dakota State could potentially, although I think teams would initially give him a go at tackle to start with. There, wasn't he one of the ones at the Senior Bowl that we saw get some work inside?
Yeah, he played some guard
and played good too. I mean, or at least in the practices, looked very, very comfortable in there. There's talk about the Tevin Jenkins maybe even, maybe having to kick inside. Is it the Michigan tackle one of those as well too that could? I guess long story short, when you look at guys that project as bona fide, maybe even potential left tackles versus right tackles, I think that's where Brown starts to climb up a little bit. in there. So that's kind of just, I view my opinion on him moving up a little bit as more of an overall reflection of learning and studying more of the overall tackle class as a whole.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and just to look at Miners, the prospect himself, obviously Steelers have shown interest in him. They had Adrian Clem at his pro day. I'm sure they like what they saw at the Senior Bowl, and he would be fit as that kind of, presumably mauling type center that is that physical, nasty guy that his offensive line just simply lacked last season.
I think that one of the most interesting discussions when it comes to Miners is, and we had this in the direct message on Twitter with all the guys and all that, guys, would you bet this house this guy's a top 75 player in this year's draft? And I think really half of us, half the guys think he is, and the other half maybe not so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would bet my house that he's a top 75 guy, but the discussions around, is he going to be a fourth round guy? And I think he's more likely to be somewhere in the top 3 rounds. Maybe that's closer to the 100 range. But when you look at just the physicality, then he tested fantastically. I know pro day times can be a little bit wonky this year, but I mean, he was just off the charts in terms of athleticism. So you have a bigger, stronger, really good athlete that can play center, play guard. Granted, he has some of those small school things working against him, but that type of athlete with the strength he has is a pretty rare and impressive combination.
If he projects as a center and center only, really, which isn't hit, that's definitely a projection, right? I mean, because he played, like you said, left guard at Wisconsin Whitewater. If you go into this thing, if 32 of 32 decision makers with teams say this guy's got to move to center, then I think that's gonna push him down a little bit. You
think?
Yeah, because
I don't know. Guard versus center. I mean, I don't know if it changes the value of things too much.
Well, if you go, like I said, you're gonna pick him in the top 75. With the eye. Look, if you're gonna pick him in the first 2 rounds, don't miss. Period. I think with him, it's just a slight bit of caution. Look, I want him to be a Steeler bad. I mean, I like him that much, but I want him to be at center is where I want him.
Yeah. In Pittsburgh, for sure, he'd be a center because you're not going to play him a guard. You got Dotson to Castro there. Maybe other teams could view him as a guard that need that more than center. But I think in Pittsburgh, obviously, you're looking at him with the eye of him becoming a center.
I just look at this based the way the caution I'm putting on him is, don't be surprised if you're getting in the middle of the 3rd round, he's still on the board there, I guess, overall. And this is and the reasons I gave would be reasons why based on history and this particular look. I've been in love with some guards in the past that I wonder, man, why the heck why the hell are they slipping down? We see guards and centers for some reason, especially lately, just get pushed down,
Yeah, that's a good point. And if we're going to sit there and say that, you got Humphrey, Dickerson, those guys going in the 2nd round, then it may, push a guy like Miners down a little bit as well. Sure.
Yeah, maybe we just had way too long of a talk about Quinn Miners, but I mean, once again, I like him. Will he be there in the 4th round for the Steelers? I don't know, but to me, where I have and what I think could potentially happen, that's why he ended up where he is. You want to throw him, you want to move him up around in my mock, have at it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the reasons are justified, though. I think you explained yourself pretty well. Also, in the 4th round, sticking with the offensive lineman, you're going with Tommy Doyle, the offensive tackle out of Miami, Ohio. Former hockey player, grew up playing hockey, big dude. I liked his tape this past year. What did you like about Tommy Doyle?
Yeah, you're looking for like the old Saturday Night Live skit, the perfect cheer, skit with Will Ferrell, and is that before your time? Those skits?
I know the one with Drake, but I don't think you're referring to that one.
No, boy, I've gotten old where you don't know even the old perfect cheer. Where Will Ferrell and I forget what the other player was in that always was the female cheerleader with them. Anyway, you always look for kind of the perfect cheer here, and I'm looking for the perfect tackle to fit in this, after bypassing and not hitting it and missing out on saying Spitzer Brown. I'm looking for that perfect kind of tackle for the Steelers, and I think Tommy Doyle would be that, and I think there's a good chance that he'd still be around. Come their second, fourth round pick here. So big kid, ninth athleticism. Spencer Brown light maybe in this draft, if you will. He did not get a Senior Bowl invite, but he did get an East-West Shrine Game invite. He might, he might be the best kept secret. Not that it would be the NFL teams, but maybe just to the draft public in general. There, when it comes to left tackles, sleeper left tackles in this class, I think Tommy Doyle out of Miami, Ohio, could be that guy.
Yeah, I think so. He got much better as his college career progressed. So 2020 limited tape there, and the couple games they played was some of his best tape. And a good athlete, a really powerful run blocker, generates a lot of movement. I think he's a developmental guy. Still has some work to do in terms of hand placement and just base and staying upright and his balance and things like that. But a really good developmental guy who's played both tackle spots, both left tackle and right tackle. So there's some versatility there, and of course a Mac guy, which feels like a requirement for any Steelers mock draft.
Absolutely, it does.
All right, Dave. In the sixth round here, I had the question of my terrible take last week of what position gets the short straw in people's mock drafts, and for you, I think it was edge rusher. Unfortunately, with Shaka Tona being the edge rusher here, taken in the sixth round out of Penn State. Obviously, you can't address every single need there in the top 3 rounds. So, A, what made you go Shaka Tony, and B, why did you decide that edge kind of draws a short straw here?
Yeah, I mean, just not enough picks to go around. I mean, I think I would not be surprised if they addressed it earlier than what I have in this draft. But I think just for the purpose of this draft and trying to slot positions versus who might be available versus who fits, all the tough chores that come with putting these things together to get at least some golf claps involved with them. I think Shaka Tony hits. I think he checks a lot of the boxes here when it comes to the Steelers. Team captain, Sparky. He's undersized a little bit, which means he's probably only going to fit for 3-4 teams. So that's gonna narrow him down a lot of it there. I think just a lot of things working against him overall is what's going to potentially push him down. And I think the Steelers like him. I think he fits. Once again, I think he checks a lot of boxes overall. I think he's a guy that you can throw out there in his rookie season and get some special teams work out of, which is probably going to be a must for him. Invited to the Senior Bowl. I mean, I guess more than anything, what's not to like about him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, do you think from a size standpoint, when he weighs 6'2", 241 or something, I mean, that's decent enough, I guess, for Pittsburgh? A little bit on the smaller side.
Sure, and that's going to push him down too.
Yeah. I like the pick here. I like the player. Is he going to be your number 3? I guess in this hypothetical, do you think that you would still be interested in maybe trading for somebody come August?
I mean, you're talking after the fact here. I mean, he's a guy you're going to want to get in the weight room, and I wouldn't expect him, obviously, to challenge. I think if you could get him on the field and get him some playing time, at some point outside of special teams would obviously be the goal. But I think you got to put a little bit of meat on him, a little sand in his pants. Not as good against run, I don't think. Obviously he's a pass rusher there overall, but this is a very Chris Carter kind of pick, right?
Well, I'm worried he's Sutton Smith. Is my worry.
I mean, Sutton Smith was a little bit was a lot smaller than that, wasn't he?
Was he? I think a little bit smaller, but they're both just maybe small. How much did Sutton Smith weigh?
I thought Sutton Smith was a lot smaller because this kid checks in at 6'2.5", 242. What was Sutton Smith at the?
6 foot 233. So he was smaller. Well, he didn't have any length too. So Sutton Smith was a lot smaller.
Right. What did Sutton Smith check in at arm and wing? Because this kid's got some span on him.
What's his length? What's his arm length?
Shaka 33-inch arms, and he's got a wing of 82 and an eighth. Man, so
wow.
he can.
Yeah, that blows Sutton Smith out the water.
I mean, he could you flap those arms. He could probably get some air a little bit there. So
Is that gonna be your new lobster crackers?
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, that's what kind of makes him a little bit more attractive, I think, in the later rounds. He's got a little, even though he's not long, talking 6'3.5", 6'4". He 6'2.5" for an outside linebacker in the Steelers system isn't awful.
And the length is more important than the height, and he's got really good length for that height. So I think that's a really good point there.
Right. So I think there are some things that are going to push him down because I don't think he's going to be attractive to even man fronts. Right.
Yeah, he's more of a stand-up 3-4 end type of guy.
All right, so that's going to limit him on top of it. And also, I think his tape against run, could use some improvement. I think it just tape overall just shows he needs to get stronger. Now, he's going to check the box. He's obviously going to get drafted because of the athletic profile on him and the Power 5 and all like that. So, I mean, I think he fits there either as a round. Obviously the Steelers don't have a fifth round pick, but I could see him in that 5th to 6th round kind of area there, and I think the Steelers probably like him.
Yeah, no, I think the fit there is fine, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. It just, will the Steelers wait till the late 6th round to address the outside linebacker where they have no depth right now is the question I'm wrestling with.
Sure, and they might not. And might not wait that long. I mean, that once again, you only have so many picks here, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's the big problem. Is somebody has to kind of get screwed here. Some position isn't going to be addressed adequately, and you're going to have to just choose your make your choice there in these mock drafts. In the 7th round at 245, overall going with cornerback Kerry Vincent Jr. out of LSU, Senior Bowl invite. I guess you're going to play him in the slot. And You mentioned he had NFL bloodlines. I don't remember what those bloodlines were. Do you know?
His dad was what his dad I think drafted by the Saints and then I think also played in CFL or something. I think.
Okay, cool. So is he going to be a slot guy, outside guy, or?
He'd have to be a slot guy. And look, you get down this late and you're trying to find a perfect. I wanted to address slot. Let's see. His father played college football at Texas A&M in the Arena League, and it seemed like he was also drafted by. I thought I read something that he was drafted by the Saints or something like that. Let me see if I can find that. I thought I found that.
But still, some football bloodlines, athletic family, and that's always important to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and his father died months after. Interesting backstory to him as well about his father passing away and all like that. But anyway, and this is a kid I think opted out last year as well too, right? So he's got that kind of working up against him on top of it. Looking for the perfect kind of slot guy that can be had late if there is such a thing. And
I think he fits.
I think he fits there. Obviously, comes from a major program in LSU. You get what you get this late, and the list isn't long of people to try to fit in this spot.
Yeah, just real quick, just kind of an overall philosophy in these. You said Vincent opted out in 2020.
I believe that was a story on him.
Yeah. So I mean, how many of these guys in your mock played significantly in 2020? Because I know, Colbert made the reference of, that they might knock guys that didn't play or didn't play much in 2020. And I know that, Freiermuth got hurt. Miners obviously didn't get a chance to play. So just did that sway you at all when making these decisions?
I mean, early on, to a degree, yes.
Mm-hmm. But you think it matters less the later you get into the
draft? I think the later. I think the later if the tape's there and the character's there, I don't think it's as big a deal.
I got you. Yeah, that's fair. All right, and with your
we're talking about a 7th round pick here, right?
Sure. If he's got good tape, then that probably outweighs not playing this past season. In the 7th round, 254 overall, you're going the key to my heart here, Dave, with a specialist, and I know you've been pining for this for a little while here with a punter Max Duffy out of Kentucky. Why punter and why Duffy?
The reason. I mean, why not? I couldn't with a good conscience, as much as I've talked about punter being potentially a pick in this year's draft by the Steelers, there's no way I could have come out of my mock draft without putting a punter in there. And you recently profiled Max Duffy. I think as far as punters go in the Steelers, I think he checks a lot of boxes. Never thought that was going to come out of my mouth there. But look, Danny Smith was at his pro day. I think you did a great job on your profile on connecting a few dots there. Not that that's a big deal. Could you could make an argument that spending a 7th round draft pick on a guy that probably going to make your team in a punter and Max Duffy versus a 7th round pick in, say, maybe a 7th round safety, or what other position would have gone here? Inside linebacker,
receiver,
or wide receiver. Look, I really wanted to put a wide receiver in this thing, but to try to put a guy in here that I think might have a better chance to make a roster than say a Max Duffy. Hey, am I going to stick to the gotta have a punter in my mock drafts going forward? We'll see, but I couldn't with good conscience come out of my mock draft without putting a punter in there. You know that.
Yeah, and Duffy was the Ray Guy award winner for the best punter in college football back in 2019, so 2 seasons ago. He's a rugby-style punter, so there's going to be a transition there. He is older than his birthday was actually, I think, the other day. He's like 28 now. He's an older punter, an Aussie guy. But it obviously matters a lot less for the position. One thing I found about him last night, actually, because I'm going through a bunch of punters here, watching a lot of tape, and I should have included this in my report. I didn't know that information by then. He's actually got a history of concussions, which is also maybe some medical concerns there with him. But in my official Steelers Depot punter rankings of the 4 I've watched, I rank Duffy at number 3 on my punter rankings.
Okay.
So whatever.
I guess the whole. Are we going to get into no way he's going to be on the board, Dave?
No chance will Max Duffy be there at 254. You lost your mind, Dave.
I know, ruined. It's all ruined.
The thing with punters, though, they're all over the map. Like, I know there's some grades about where, but it's just literally any one team can have a totally different board and just like this one particular punter. So, like the guy that's viewed as a top punter in this class, James Smith, I has my number 4 ranked punter of the 4 that I've watched. So, I mean, punters can be all over the map.
Yeah, I ruined it. There's no way Max Duffy's going to be there. I'm pretty sure. Look, you can make argument. You can make the argument that one of those top, and we already said. Look, I think there's like 4 guys. 4 punters, maybe, that are we really having this talk? 4 punters that
this is everything I've dreamed about for the last 7 years.
There's 4 draftable punters. We've reached this. It seems like we've missed a chunk. We've denied the listeners a lot of good draft talk if we're already at this stage a couple weeks out from the draft, I think. But look, I don't think it's unthinkable that the Steelers draft a punter this year, and at worst, I think we're going to see one signed as an undrafted free agent. So, once again, I've talked all for damn near probably a year that I think that maybe they spend a draft pick on a punter. I could not, with good conscience, have my first mock draft not include a punter.
Yeah, no, I started a Word document last night categorizing punters and putting down all their times and informations and their best and worst trait. For Duffy, his best trait is his inside the 20 ability. His worst trait is that rugby style he'll have to transition from. But would I draft him? I probably wouldn't, but obviously it's a 7th round pick, and so I'm not going to beat you up too much for it.
There I'm going. I'm going to break a TV now.
All right, Dave.
Top to bottom, what do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to kind of ask you. I like this mock draft. I think it addresses all the key needs. Getting a tight end early for this mock is a key to my heart as well, because they just neglected doing that for over a decade now. But I was going to ask you, you always say whenever you hit that publish button or that schedule button, you always kind of wince a little bit about how could I come back and done something differently, or maybe I should have went with a different direction. Did you have any inkling of that this time around, and what position or what area did you kind of feel like, man, maybe I should have, gone back and done this a different way?
I just struggle with maybe what I did in the third round and with the first of 2 picks in the 4th round. Could I make that order any better? Could maybe I get Miners moved up into the third round? Is there maybe would a guy like Myers be on the board for them? The center class overall, top to bottom, as has been the case for a couple years now, isn't great. So if you want one, you're going to have to get them with one of your first 4 picks. Who's going to fall? That's always the topic of conversation. We do, however, see centers get pushed down. I think is a guy. I came close to maybe shoehorning Dickerson in there at that spot, but I would have got a huge pushback from you, I think, saying, "Oh, no way, he's going to be there on the board." But I think there's arguments that somebody's going to get pushed down here, I think. And
yeah, you're right.
Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Myers? Is it going to be Dickerson? Is it going to be Josh Myers? Is it going to be another? Obviously, you wouldn't think Creed Humphrey would be that guy there. Could I have built this thing better where maybe I put the center up into round 3 and find a better inside linebacker prospect, or maybe even a safety that plays down low? They've looked at some of these kind of more hybrid guys. Could I have put that in there at the first 4th round pick there? So I think once pushing the button and after the fact and having this discussion, I would say maybe I could have done a little something better in that 3rd round pick and the first 4th round pick, rearrange some stuff and maybe do a better job there.
Yeah, well, I'll put it this way. If the Steelers mock draft were to turn out exactly the way you have it laid out there, I'd be very happy with that haul.
Yeah, I think most should probably be. No, I'm going to promise everybody I'm not going to get this right, okay? So have no fear that I will not be patting myself on the back of hitting all 8 of these picks.
We do have a money-back guarantee program, too.
We do? Okay.
Mock drafts.
Right.
Do we?
All right.
Well, we do now.
All right. There we go.
Our refund sent
What would you like to see different? What would be your biggest criticism of this one?
It would just be wrestling. And again, I understand, like, in any mock draft, some position's going to get screwed here. But edge in the 6th round, you're basically saying you have to still do more work to address the position because you can't go into a draft behind, Highsmith and Watt of Cassius Marsh and a 6th round pick in Shaka Toney, even though I do like Shaka Toney.
Though, when you look at and here's the thing on top of it, another thing maybe I struggled with, and if I was going to address that position a little bit earlier, it would be the Hamilton. What's his last name?
Yeah, it's a funny last name out of Oregon State. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Right, boy, that
Rashid.
That guy, that Hamilton.
Hamilcar Rashid Jr.
Boy, he fits for the Steelers. It's just weird you put this guy,
What do you think he should be, like 3rd, 4th round? Where do you project him?
We have a little bit of breaking news here. Jay Glazer reports they have signed James Conner.
The Cardinals have signed James Conner?
Right. What did I say?
You just said no team. You just said they signed James Conner.
Oh, okay. The Cardinals have signed James Conner.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was, like I said, a great fit. No surprise there, and I wish James Conner the best of luck.
All right, well, there you go. We spoke James Conner into existence. I mean, into signing there, I guess, earlier in the show. Now it'll be interesting to see what kind of deal he got there overall, and it'll be interesting to see how quick that information surfaces there. Good for him. Look, if you want a guy to root for, right, it's James Conner, and reuniting with the running back coach over there is the first one that he had. Obviously, when he entered the NFL, maybe that'll help him out there. So good for James Conner.
Absolutely, I think Arizona is a great landing spot for him.
Right, and one of the few I think left out there that would have been kind of more ideal for him. And once again, it'd be interesting to see what kind of deal he got, if it's in incentives involved there or what. But first 4 years with the Steelers, and then now see if he can keep his career going with the Arizona Cardinals.
All right, Dave, kind of going back and finishing up your mock draft. So, yeah, any other final thoughts there? I just think I was pretty happy with your mock. So, is your next mock going to be your last mock, or will there be another one in between?
I don't know. I probably surprised you with this one, didn't I?
I didn't. I was waiting. We've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you finally got to see it.
I'll probably do another one before the final one. At least
Okay.
at least that's the plan. So we'll see.
All right, Dave, speaking of mock drafts, Mel Kiper Jr. came up with his latest 2-round mock draft for the NFL today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the first round, he had them taking, just as you did, Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, at 24 overall. And in the second round at 55, he had Dylan Redden, the offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. So Harris and Redden, his picks for the Steelers.
Yeah, somebody ghost mocking for Mel Kiper these days. I don't know. That might be Mel Kiper's best offering in years, especially when it comes to a multi-round mock draft. There, it's hard to argue with what he has in there, right? I mean, we talked about Dylan Redden's a little bit earlier in the show. I guess the only question is do teams really see him as a bona fide left tackle? I think where he's kind of slotted there in the second round at 55 overall would certainly make sense. We're talking about a Senior Bowl prospect as well too, just like Najee. So if the Steelers did go tackle in the second round, after going Najee in the first round, it's kind of hard to argue with this, right?
Yeah, I think Redden's is going to be a tackle in this league. I know he's maybe a little bit short, but I don't think he has the functional strength to play at guard full time, maybe in a zone-heavy type of scheme. That was my concern with a guy like Ezra Cleveland last year, but the Vikings, I think, kicked him to guard anyway. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think I would be playing Redden's at left tackle if I were to draft him.
Okay. And if that's the case, I mean, 55 sounds about right for him, right?
Yeah, I think that's in a deep tackle class like this. I think that's a solid spot for him. Very well projected.
Right. I think he's like the fifth or sixth tackle that, let's see, I'm trying to remember where he has, how many tackle he has going off the board there. I thought I wrote it in here. Oh, it was the sixth tackle that Kiper has coming off the board in his latest mock draft there.
I feel it's kind of light. It feels like there's going to be more tackles drafted ahead, unless he's counting some of these guys like Slater and Tucker as guards and centers.
Yeah, I didn't look at that.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's Kiper's mock draft. Pretty decent, all things considered. Dave, sticking with our draft trends, with Pro Days officially done, and certainly with the information you've compiled for Pro Days, a big help here. Makes my life a lot easier in doing these studies, and I know they're always fun to talk about, the What the Steelers Look For studies. I'm trying to get through as many of these as possible before the draft. The first one was on running backs, looking at draft thresholds based on the Mike Tomlin era, the guys they've drafted, and see what players meet those benchmarks across the board. For running back, it was surprising. Only 2 names fit in terms of checking every single box that we have, and they were 2 pretty not well-known names. That's Stevie Scott from Indiana and Jared Dokes from Cincinnati. Now, Dokes has been kind of regarded as a sleeper, a day 3 candidate, so that's going to be worth watching if he's a late day 3 guy or maybe an undrafted player as well. But no player from the big names checked every single box, although some came close, including Travis Etienne at Clemson, who missed the weight threshold by just 5 pounds.
And obviously, Najee's not going to make it because he didn't do anything.
Right. Players who don't work out get penalized because I'm guessing if Harris would have worked out, he would have probably checked every single box because he would have had the size. And the biggest hurdle for most of these backs is they just don't have the size and the weight to make it. Harris would have, so I'm guessing he would have made it. But obviously, he cannot count because he did not test.
All right. Unfortunate that we don't have more, didn't have data to see where exactly Najee would fit on that. I don't think it's a big deal about Travis and the weight, right?
Well, it was interesting because he probably didn't play at 215 this year. He was probably playing a lot lighter, and he's one of the few guys that have added weight. I think one reason why most of these guys miss because of weight is because if you're playing like 220, 225, you're probably slimming down before the draft to try to get faster, more explosive, and test better. So most guys could go down as opposed to coming up. Etienne was an exception to that, but still missed the weight by 5 pounds.
Where did Sermon?
He missed in weight, and he did not bench. So
Okay.
he did not qualify for those 2 reasons. But if the weight was by 5 pounds and the bench is, he probably would have made it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the running back study. And then today I did interior offensive linemen, so centers and guards.
I called him Travis, Trey. Trey.
Oh, did you call him Travis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. Okay, you said Sermon. Sorry.
You knew who I talk about.
Mm-hmm. For interior offensive linemen, 5 guys actually checked every single box. So a much more robust list here with some bigger names, including Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma, regarded as the top center in this class. Robert Hainsey from Notre Dame, a good, I think, day 3 sleeper to keep an eye on. Trey Smith from Tennessee. Barrett Tucker from USC, a tackle who's probably going to play guard at the NFL. And Rashawn Slater, a tackle at Northwestern who could kick to guard or even center at the NFL level, probably not on the board for Pittsburgh by the time they pick at 24.
Yeah, the thing too, Dickerson, your guy Dickerson, not working out, certainly going to impact that. Man, kind of a thin. We already knew that, especially when it came to center, it was going to be a thin list, right?
Yeah, but I think Humphrey on there is notable. I think Hainsey being on there is notable as well. And some guys that came close by just missing a box or two, like Jimmy Morrissey from Pitt and Kendrick Green from Illinois.
Now, Hainsey, he doesn't have any center in his background, does he?
He played there at the Senior Bowl, I believe. I don't think he did it at Notre Dame, but he's very versatile. I think he probably kicks inside, I think, the center in the NFL, but he was like a right tackle, but a guard at Notre Dame.
Is that a possibility there? I saw that this morning, and I tried to take a quick deeper dive first thing there. Is there any legitimacy to him maybe moving to center at the NFL level? Is that?
He played there in Mobile, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, obviously someone was trying to look at him. He's not going to play tackle, I don't think. He's a little too small, I think, to play tackle at 6'4.5", 306 with 32 and an 1/8-inch arms. He's not going to be a tackle.
I mean, how legitimate of a move do you really think that is? I mean, could the Steelers seriously be looking at this guy as a center in, say, the 3rd or 4th round? I've toyed with him.
I have too. I really have too. I mean, he's a local guy, whatever that's for, the Pittsburgh native. I think he wouldn't be typecast as just a center. He would be a center guard, kind of interior, swingman potentially. But I think he could play center absolutely.
Maybe that's a guy that we need to investigate a little bit more. The thought crossed my mind when I saw this, and the thought crossed my mind when putting my mock together. But I couldn't. Being as how he would. I mean, look, Miners is a projection, right?
Sure. Yep. And obviously even more so a projection in the sense that he's coming from a D3 school.
Right. I mean, maybe that's the guy that we haven't spent enough time talking about.
Yeah, I've thought about him a lot, and I've really considered him and someone that can be, versatile, and he's smart, he's tough, and a lot of the O-line guys that love this tape and know this stuff better than I do really like Robert Hainsey. So I think that is a name that is a sleeper for the Steelers to draft.
How much did he do at the Senior Bowl at center?
I don't know the exact level. I just know he played there some. I'm looking at a headline here from January. He's been taking reps at guard, tackle, and center down in Mobile. I'd have to look at it a little bit more. But
well, he's not a tackle. We know he's not a tackle.
Well, he played tackle at Notre Dame, yeah. I think he started the Senior Bowl at center, so or maybe started at right guard and then also played center, I should say. So he's learning. It's not that it's not natural, but I think he's got the intelligence and the ability to play there.
He's going to be a 3rd, 4th round guy, right around in there, or is he going to get pushed down a little bit more?
Yeah, I think in the 4th round, you put Robert Hainsey with one of those 4th round picks is probably solid, I would say.
And project him as a center.
Yeah, center guard. I think in Pittsburgh, maybe starting at center, getting some reps and work there because he probably needs it. But yeah, I think you could play him at center or guard.
And he checked every box?
Every single box, yep.
That's somebody that we probably need to pay more attention to right there. That's the beauty about what you doing these things and us having these conversations and then circling back. I did not remember the center talk at the Senior Bowl. So now that's there, that's really there's a lot of dots you can draw, lines you connect, dots you can connect if that's the case there. That might be one of your best. That might be one of your best finds in this study if that happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed. I'm trying to think.
I like Trey Smith too. I think he's a fantastic player. Just the need at guard with him when it comes to the Steelers as a true guard, which I think this guy is a true left guard. Talking about Trey Smith there. I mean, who could break glass in case of emergency, could flip out to tackle for you. Very, very Ramon Foster-like feel to him. when Foster came out there. That's another interesting prospect, but I have kind of eliminated him for the sheer fact that I view him more as a guard more than anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. With Notre Dame, they sent Clem as the third guy to Notre Dame's pro day. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think you're right, yeah.
Clem. And there's a couple, obviously, Notre Dame offensive linemen. There's several. There's Aaron Banks. There's Liam Eichenberg. There's Hainsey. So it wasn't just Hainsey working out, but that's another. There's a lot of boxes he's checking here. Is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting name there. You're going to beat me to the punch. You're going to put him in your next mock, aren't you?
Well, you're probably going to beat me because my next mock will be my final one before the draft.
I like that, though. We need to investigate that a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, local guy. Now, he moved. He played high school football in Florida. He went down to, I think, the IMG Academy where a lot of these guys go to, but he grew up in Pittsburgh. I think Gateway. I want to say he went to Gateway his first 2 years or something like that. So there's a little bit of a local vibe to him, for whatever that's worth.
Okay, good job. I love these. Absolutely love these.
I'll probably do defense next. What position should I go defense next? Should I go off-ball linebacker, edge?
Yeah. Do. I think a lot of people would like to see the off-the-ball linebacker next.
Linebacker. All right, cool. All right, Dave, anything else you want to talk about? Or we can jump into reader emails and close out today's show.
Yeah, I guess let's jump into the email. Boy, you got me kind of excited there because I just looked at him.
I know you get that cold shower now.
Yeah, I just looked at him this morning and I remember, kind of thinking, I don't know if that guy can move or not there. So I'm going to have to dig a little bit deeper down into him. All right, Ashley Bright writes in, our buddy Ashley writes in, David Alex, great stuff, listener for 11 years. Ashley's probably one of our longest listening listeners that we have that I haven't managed to run off yet. Great stuff, listener for 11 years. The pace, information, insight, and energy of the podcast are second to none. Who are three centers in the draft, rounds 2 to 4, that the Steelers could draft to compete with Finney for starter or top backup? Similar question for cornerback. Who are three cornerbacks in the draft, rounds 2 to 4, that could draft to compete for a starting job or top backup? Alex says Robert Hainsley, offensive line of Notre Dame, screams Steeler. Boy, what a perfect segue this email. Ashley, we did not pay Ashley for this.
I may have paid Ashley.
Okay, for the timing of this, but this is a great question at just the right time here. Alex, jump on it.
Yeah, I think Hainsey, as Ashley mentioned, because Ashley asked me the other day on Twitter, who kind of screams Steeler, and I think there's a lot of options here. I think Hainsey kind of really screams that, kind of my gut telling me that. Other guys, Quinn Miners. I mean, there's that second through fourth round option. I think Miners is a great fit as well. Any other names you want to throw out there? I'm not, Dickerson. It could be a higher second, third round type of pick. But I think Hainsey and Miners are two really strong candidates.
Yeah, I would agree. And look, when you get into the cornerbacks, though, I'm where they draft them, I think is going, and that's why Vincent ended up late in my draft. I would love to try to find a way to pencil in a guy, say a fourth round pick of an ideal slot corner, and I struggle with that.
Yeah. One name I've thought about some and potentially will include in my final mock draft is, and it's not a guy that I like a whole lot, but the Steelers might, are Darius Washington from TCU. Versatile. He's played safety. He's played slot corner. He's physical. He plays to run hard. Terrell Austin was at his pro day. I don't think he's a good enough athlete, and he's terribly undersized, which kind of makes him a tough fit in the NFL, probably more slot corner than safety, but someone I could see the Steelers liking for that versatility and that kind of Mike Hilton type physicality.
All right, here, I dug a little bit further down into real quick on to Hainsey here, and yeah, he's man, I didn't realize he started that many games at right tackle at Notre Dame. Pretty much damn near all of them, right? 34 of 46 games played at right tackle.
What are the other 12?
I don't have those.
Specify. Okay.
Yeah.
He played a lot of tackle.
That's where we're going to have to, let's see, if that's 46 games played, 34 games started. His primary position in the last 4 seasons has been right tackle, it seems like.
Okay.
And we know he's not a right tackle at the NFL level.
Yeah.
At least I don't think.
Let me try to see if there's anything from Jonathan's report on him. Says about other positions. Nothing specifically. No. He was
a 4-star offensive guard recruit out of high school. Number 5 ranked offensive guard in the class. Number 16 recruit in the state of Florida. Received few offers as a sophomore. That's about all we see about that. I don't know we have to dive a little bit deeper into some of the other work that he did at Notre Dame outside of right tackle. But that's probably what's thrown him off on me is him being used primarily as a right tackle.
But we know he's playing inside in the NFL. He's going to succeed. So there's a projection there. But Owen Foster was a tackle at Tennessee, and he had a great career at guard.
Right.
So. In terms of corners, though, Washington, maybe that St. Juice kid from Minnesota, big long guy on the outside, not a slot corner, but an outside corner potentially in, say, round 3.
Okay, thanks for the email, Ashley. Good to hear from you. Let's see if I can find another one here. I know we got some here. JJ writes in from, I think this is JJ from Kentucky. First off, impressive amount of player profiles. Yeah, it is. You guys have been killing it. What's the most amount of draft profiles this site has ever done before, Alex?
I think we've cracked 200 before, but I'm not sure what the number is, and I'm pretty certain this year's going to beat whatever that previous high was.
He says, do we have a draft guy coming on the show like the beloved late Dave T? Probably not. I mean, Alex and I are your draft gurus. Look, Dave T was unique in Dave T's unique way. Dave T is someone that you knew unequivocally knows a lot about the tape or information on a lot of these guys. There was a reason Dave T was our go-to guy on all these shows because, I mean, there's multiple reasons, right, Alex?
Yeah, the knowledge, just the ability to talk about, just mention any player, and he knew all the information top of his head. The rapport that he had, the chemistry we had, you and him specifically had on the show was really important and really hard to replace. So maybe, I mean, if we ever cross paths with somebody that we feel like really would be a good fit to have on the show, but it's hard to really kind of try to find the next Dave T because that's impossible to do.
Right, and look, there are a lot of national draft nicks out there that I guess you could call gurus that how can I put this politely or do I everything? I don't think a lot of them are as good as advertised. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to replace Dave T just for the fact of, you guys got to have a draft guy on because, I just don't feel right about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dave T was kind of unique for what Dave T was. And look, I did not agree with everything Dave T said. And that's probably good, from a conversation aspect there. But Dave T was so beneficial to all things that we did during the draft season when we had him on for several reasons. He was entertaining, he was knowledgeable, and we're not just going to throw a guy on just to have him on.
Yeah, and Dave T was just honest. He would tell you exactly how he felt, and as you said, you may not always agree with that, but you always knew that what he said was sincere in his truth. And you don't always get that stuff from draft nicks today. You get spin, you get I don't want to criticize this guy because I don't want the blowback for it, or this agent, I have a relationship with him, etc. Dave T was always going to tell you exactly what he thought.
Right, and look, I mean, outside, and nobody wants us to have 89-year-old Gil Brandt would be the guy I would have on, to be honest with you. And I don't know how attractive he would be to most of our listeners. Any other draft nicks you value outside of that, Alex? I mean, we got a lot of them working for the site, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it would be less about a draft nick, but more about somebody that knew a position really well, like a Brandon Thorne who knows offensive line, I think, better than anyone else that I've come across. Someone like that, so maybe not someone in a traditional draft nick sense, but I'm fine with just us just yapping about these guys for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I am as well too. So apologies to you guys that are wanting a draft guy on. If Alex and I don't fit, the draft guy for you as much tape as we watch, then I don't know, go find another podcast that maybe has a couple of these guys. Look, Greg Cosell would be great, right? But
yeah, sure.
I think it's going to be. It would be Greg Cosell would probably be the next guy on the list. But to have Greg Cosell come on and talk for 40 minutes like we would have Dave, 40 minutes to an hour, I don't think we'd be able to get it done.
I'm sure he's pretty busy.
Yeah, he says Merrill Hodge would be a great post-draft guest. Get his take on the picks. Yeah, maybe. JJ goes on to say, I'm still patiently waiting for the draft profile of Landon Young, left tackle out of UK. Fantastic kid with a great work ethic, was state champion. We'll see if we can get that done for you, JJ. Thanks for all the work you do. I seriously laugh when other podcasts claim to be the best for Steelers coverage. We laugh at that as well, too. Quite honestly there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Pastor Joe Green's back on here. This is why you want offensive linemen to have he's got a YouTube clip of some cats there, so not really more of a question there, kind of a ha-ha funny there. Deshaun Campbell writes in, some guys have been coming here on the as an OSU fan who listens to the also listens to Buckeye podcast. This is my understanding for why Browning didn't play as much as we'd like. Pretty simple. He just had talent and trust ahead of him. And Borland and Peter Werner were both 3-year starters. Both played well. Both will be drafted. And both were reliable. Kind of hard to take your 3-time captain off the field. And Borland also had Malik Harrison above him, who we all know got drafted. Peter Werner is a tackling machine who can also cover and play a little bit of safety. Browning also plays a little bit of edge. He was one of the choices to lead the team in sacks last year. This would be a great duo next to Bush. I think we kind of hit a little bit of why Browning might not be that second-round guy a lot of people haven't pegged as, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's all fair, and that's good context to add, but at the end of the day is you're just drafting a guy that doesn't have a lot of tape, and, I understand, Borland was the captain and all that, but, you're now going to draft Brandon Browning above tough Borland when Browning couldn't outplay him or take his spot on the field, and the same with Pete Werner. So it's a fair point, and there's a projection there that just makes that evaluation a little bit more difficult than otherwise would have been.
Right. And that's why I kind of think, is it unthinkable to think that Browning is more of a third or fourth round guy? Once again, I don't want to get into round, but does that give more credence, I guess, to where I may have him slotted?
Yeah, I think that it's not unreasonable to think he could slip into that mid-third round.
All right, Ben G in Chicago writes, hi, David Alex. Amazing work to help prep for the draft. A quick question about technical football terms. Is there a good place to learn more about them and what they mean? For example, Mac, Buck, Z, 3-Tech, etc.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of resources out there. I'm trying to think of a good one to start with.
Pylon does pretty good, right?
Yeah, I was going to mention Inside the Pylon. I don't think the site is really active anymore, but it's still archived and everything's still there, and the information is still invaluable. I still use it from time to time. So Inside the Pylon probably be one of the best places to go. Just start. You know what?
Really. We got Jonathan right now, who's kind of done some, I think, some undergrad, some graduate assistant work with college. I think that might be great to put him on post draft to build us a glossary, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
we've got a little bit of it out there, but
yeah, I've done a football 101 series. So if you want to just search that, some of this stuff might be a little outdated in terms of images not appearing and things like that. Maybe I can find a way to archive that. But yeah, maybe something like that's an off-season idea.
All right, Ben, and he also says quick mower advice. Oh, we haven't got an update on your mower choice, Alex. Quick mower advice for Alex. Go with an electric charge version. They are easier to maintain, last longer, and no nasty fumes. Also consider planting trees and shrubs to phase out your grass so you eventually don't need to mow. What did you go with mower-wise here?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm bad with this stuff. It was a Black Max 3-in-1 lawnmower at Walmart. It was not electric, so I apologize. But it works well. I just realized, though, I have a lot more yard than I realized in terms of cutting the grass, and so that's yeah.
You got you got a little bit of incline there on that property as well, too, don't you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hill there. It's a corner lot thing, so there is a lot more grass in my old place. But that's all right. Mower works well.
You're going to build up them calves, aren't you? You're going to have Najee Harris calves.
Yeah. I'll be the backup running back this year.
One last one from Steeler Hawk 47. Dwayne Eskridge writes in, I've been enjoying the lead up to the draft. What are your thoughts on Dwayne Eskridge? I had the Steelers taking him in the 6th round in my way too early mock draft from last month. I've read him described as shifty, quick, extremely fast, and with soft hands. Taking a 6th round flyer on a receiver from a smaller school in Michigan can't be all bad, and we know Colbert will pick a late round receiver. He can't help himself. What are your thoughts on the Western Michigan product?
I like Eskridge a lot. I didn't do the profile on him, but I was watching Jalen Moore, the tackle there. Eskridge was always catching my eye. I view him as a faster version of Deontay Johnson, and not to get too bogged down in the round thing, but I don't think he's going to be a late day 3 guy. I think he could be, even a solid day 2 guy is kind of how I view Eskridge right now. He's a little bit older, I think, than the typical prospect, but I think he doesn't get out at day 2.
Jonathan, boy, what a find! We are so blessed, aren't we? Get some of these guys that we find, be able to write some of these profiles up. Jonathan profiled him. An absolutely fantastic profile on him. He has him as a late 2, early day 3 kind of kid. He says Eskridge can come in right away as a field stretcher as well as a returner or gunner on special teams. Should he be utilized more in the slot and allowed to work the intermediate to get the ball quickly to work in space? Eskridge could prove to be a great passing option in a Matt Canada-led offense and be a legit number 3 level threat for a passing game needing a spark.
Yeah, really well said. I like Eskridge a lot. By the way, here, Cardinals officially announcing the Connor deal. It is a 1-year contract.
All right, so think probably going to be some incentives in there, you would think, right?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think he can maybe boost that to $3 to $4 to $5 million with incentives. I don't know what the base is going to be. We do not know the official terms of the deal, but 1 year is the length of the contract.
All right, what else, Alex? Got some emails in there. Got some good draft talk in there. Got some free agent. The list of Steelers unrestricted free agents is dwindling down quite a bit. Here are your remaining unrestricted free agents as of right now: Alejandro Villanueva, Jordan Dangerfield, Avery Williamson. We'll have to see if that changes by the end of the day, as he has hinted about re-signing with the Steelers. Joshua Dobbs, J-Ron Elliott, Gerald Hawkins, Danny Isadora.
Yeah, I mean, Villanueva's the big name now. The Connor's off the board, and just waiting to see what happens with him. Have not heard a peep about Villanueva's market.
Right, absolutely nothing in quite some time. Absolutely. All right, with that, what do we got coming up? You and I back on here probably on Friday, barring any breaking news happening. And tell us what else you got in store here.
I do want to tease and
go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to mention, I'll mention again on Friday, but this Saturday I'll have a live stream mock draft for Walk the Mock, which is a website which pretty cool. I did a mock draft the other day that kind of puts you in a war room with other people as well, not just yourself, to draft and do trades. A 3-on mock draft this Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You guys can come watch and be my scouts while I live stream the thing. Other than that, we'll just have more player profiles, some more what they look for studies, and a lot of punter profiles coming up. I'll have profiles on Presley Harvin, James Smith, and Drew Krishman will be my other 3 punter profiles.
All right, I think we did we give the people their money's worth today?
I hope so. Did our best.
All right.
No, again, money back guarantee.
All right, there you go. You even got some mower talking. in here this time around. All right. In the meantime, we'll be back on Friday. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, if we entertain you, if we amuse you, like as if we were clowns, if you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Are you a graphic designer? Are you a good graphic designer? Can you do t-shirt quality that would meet, say, something like what Spreadshirt, something that would make it real easy on Alex? We are looking for the best. We will pay you for it. We will pay you let's say $50 if we choose your design to use it for a fungible minutia, something another non-trademark infringing design. We really would like to get some of these t-shirts going maybe for the off season to do something for some charity there, right, Alex? And we probably got a lot of people listening to this podcast that are graphic designers there. Make sure you go over to Spreadshirt, any of those kind of online shirts, and look at the specifications of what they would need. I don't want to have to do anything to this. I want to purchase the design from one of you, put it into action, and sell some t-shirts and raise some money for some charity there. Something along the lines of fungible, minutia, all the stuff we've been talking about when it comes to these t-shirts. So send those to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com, along with any questions that you have that you want read on the show as well, too. So within that, perfect time to call it a Tuesday. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.